Hello, welcome to the Breck Buzz. Welcome to the new year too, huh? Hey, 2015.
Thank you, Tim.
Anyway, the show is going to tell you all about what's been happening in the town of Breckenridge last month, actually, which will be the close of 2014. I have two wonderful guests with me today, council persons, Gary Gallagher and Erin Gigliello.
Hello, Tim.
Welcome, everybody.
Thanks.
And thanks for joining us. We only had one meeting last month, but we did have some interesting topics that are going to be continuing to discuss. Probably the biggest one, we're going to start with one that is right in the middle of the season, snow removal.
That's right, yes.
So the council had a big discussion. Erin, why don't you kick it off? Why did we do it? And secondly, some of the stuff that came out of that discussion is really about level of service.
Sure, snow removal. Snow is one thing that we cannot predict at all. We'd love to. We'd love to be able to decide this is how much snow we'll get and it'll maintain throughout the full year. So it presents its challenges with employees and getting the employees here as soon as the snow falls, right? So we had this big storm right in the beginning of the season, and so we received some concerns and some calls and emails from our citizens because we had so much, and to remove that snow so quickly, it presented a challenge, and it took some time, not just on Main Street, where of course the snow fell as well, and people walking created some ice, and then there were warmer temperatures, and so we had quite a bit of ice on Main Street. And then on Ridge Street, it was removing the snow itself, which presented a problem. So we went to staff and asked, well, what can we do? How can we manage this thing that we can't predict? And they came back with a couple of suggestions, which included an extra employee, which will walk the streets and see what they can find as far as icy spots, so that when our visitors come and when our locals are walking down the street, we create a safe environment. Something else was to really try to amp up and make sure that we have those resources if we need to pay a few more people during that high time, right when we get an event, a snow event, we'll have enough people or enough money ready to go to have extra plows out there to take care of it, hopefully within a 48-hour range.
Mm-hmm. Gary, the real challenge is that you may get the streets cleared, which usually happens, but you got to put the snow somewhere. So that ends up blocking people getting into the sidewalks. And then when it's snow, it's okay, you can walk on snow, but then of course the other temperature things. And then we have to worry about the rest of town. How did all that balance come out with the discussion as you saw it?
I think it came out pretty well. I think what council said to staff and staff felt that they could deliver was a higher level of service and a quicker level of service in our downtown area. I mean, let's keep in mind, snow's a great thing. When people around the country see it snowing in Breckenridge or see it snowing in Colorado, they're making reservations to come here. We know through history that if we have a poor snow season, we're not going to have the visitation. And we know we want the visitation because that drives our sales tax revenue, which drives the majority of the revenues for the town. So from my perspective, I don't know about yours, Tim, is I see the snow and I go ka-ching, ka-ching, because it means more dollars, which says to me that we can afford to spend some more to really stay on top of our snow removal. And we also asked staff, and staff said they could deliver. We did not want to see the level of service fall off outside of our downtown area. We wanted to maintain at that same level, but be able to increase it as Erin was sharing with us, an individual that can sort of monitor the downtown area and get ahead of the trouble spots. Also, we asked the staff that going forward to be ramped up and ready to go with employees by November 15th, not historically December 1st, which we've done in the past because typically we haven't gotten big snows mid-November. Well, we got surprised this year, and so, fool me once, but let's not fool me again, and so we're going to make sure we're ready to go November 15th going forward. We're going to pull the trigger real quick if we need to bring private contractors in to move this haul away and move the snow that's building up in the curbs or the gutters or the curbs, and have a much more pleasant and safer experience in our downtown area.
Well, we've kind of put it in place, so you've had the last month to take a look at it. What do you think? How's it going?
Yeah.
I think it's going well. I was out of town for the holidays, but I heard that it improved. And it's hard to talk about right now because the weather is so warm as we're taping this.
Yeah, we got bare pavement everywhere.
But I know the snow will be back and we'll be able to test it again real soon.
Yeah.
But the tenor of the emails have changed.
Yes.
And the communication coming into council is now we're getting, there are kudos as opposed to the complaints that were coming in, rightfully so. We weren't ready, and we're in great shape now, and sort of ready to.
And it looks like our business community is taking on a little bit of the challenge,
Oh, good point.
which we did ask for them to help during the daytime hours when it's really hard to get equipment out there, on the sidewalks in particular.
That's right.
So, it will continue to work hard at it, but that's the new level, and we can report that already we're ahead of budget with the snow we've had,
Right.
which we expected.
Yes.
One of the big topics coming up, Gary, is a revisiting of our smoking regulations. The town was a leader a few years back and put in place no smoking in public places and businesses. But we also listened to the business community and did certain things that were a little different than what state law. But now the council's revisiting a number of those things based on feedback from both the businesses and from users of
Yes.
those businesses.
Yeah, we've done a couple things there. The first thing we did was we decided to do a survey and to basically ask our citizens in terms of their feelings to have a buffer zone in front of the entryways to businesses, as well as a buffer zone for outdoor patio areas, particularly where the restaurants that have outdoor patio areas. And this survey was conducted through 3 sources. One was Breck, which is our direct marketing organization, because they have a business services unit that can really reach out and put in touch the business owners. We also did it through Engage Breck, which is our internet getting feedback from the community, as well as the Restaurant Association, because they would be the most highly impacted in terms of any changes that we wanted to make. And the interesting thing was we had over 200 responses. And when you weighted averaged all the responses that came in through those 3 mechanisms in which we did the survey, roughly 90% indicated that they would support a buffer zone on entryways to the businesses as well as to the outdoor patio areas for the restaurants. And so council is moving forward. I see it on our agenda for our upcoming meeting. And generally it's going to be about a 10-foot buffer to entryways as well as around outdoor patio areas. And again, strong support for that in the neighborhood of 90%. The other thing along those lines was that we've decided to do 2 other things. One is to treat e-cigarettes the same as tobacco products. So whatever we have on the books regarding tobacco, that will also now incorporate e-cigarettes and all the new technology, if you will, that's coming for, I'll call it the alternative forms of smoking. And also we decided to add town-owned properties, town-owned public areas, also to our existing ordinance where smoking is prohibited. I think there's 29 places now that our ordinance prohibits, and we're going to add town public and open space areas, things like the open space, playgrounds, athletic fields, transit waiting areas, also the golf course in and amongst the buildings themselves. You'll still be allowed to smoke out on the course itself, but not in and around the buildings, if you will. So really expanding from our perspective, trying to get the health message out there, that whether it's e-cigarettes or whether it's tobacco products, those who don't smoke are more offended by it than obviously the smokers. And so we're moving down those parallel paths, and we'll be taking those subject matters up this coming Tuesday evening. Yeah.
The e-cigarette vapor device was kind of an interesting phenomenon, and particularly with kids. A little bit of scariness in that they weren't being regulated relative to who could get their hands on them, I guess.
Right. And it's technology. I mean, things are changing all the time, and we just have to be ahead of it. And fortunately, the way that our government works, we get to make those decisions. And just because the state hasn't put in any regulations, we can do it ourselves, which is
right. Home rule community
puts us in a great place.
Right.
Because I think were we not finding, Tim, that a lot of the stores had the e-cigarette products right up front, whereas the tobacco products are always behind the cashier or they're registered by state law.
Right.
And so I think we're going to be looking at that real hard, and I'm prepared to support, I suspect.
Yeah, I think we should treat it like any other tobacco product.
Because it will be like a tobacco product. It should be sort of, if you will, behind the counter, not right up front for the kids to snatch and run.
Right.
or if they're going to be honest about it, purchase it.
And if you're under 18, no. Though there was an interesting study I just saw that the new gateway into smoking for kids is in fact the devices.
Interesting, because they market it in the opposite direction, that e-cigarettes help people wean off of tobacco products.
Yeah.
And I don't think we know enough yet, because I saw about a
No.
month ago, the study came out from a university in Japan in concert with another university. And they basically, when they evaluated whatever the smoke is given off or whatever, that there were 10 times more carcinogens in that product than there actually is in the tobacco. Obviously, we know we have tar and nicotine.
Right.
But identifying other carcinogens, again, according to this research study, and I'm sure there's studies that will refute that, but I think what it says is we really don't know enough, and we don't know everything yet that we probably need to know about this new product.
Right.
And if you are in the proximity of somebody smoking an e-cigarette, you can still smell it, which means that you're still inhaling it, and that's just
Something.
not fair
You're inhaling
in a small area.
Right. And
Yeah.
FDA really hasn't come out with anything yet to really regulate. We ought to point out that the council wants to make sure that everybody's aware that there's going to be 2 public meetings relative to these changes, because they felt it was important, even though we heard a lot from the surveys. So at our Tuesday meeting next week and the 2 weeks after that, there'll be 2 opportunities for the public to come forward and chat with the council about what they think about these changes. So good opportunities for input. Let's go to childcare.
All right, childcare.
Been working on this a long time. We took care of kind of the budgetary part earlier when we did our budget, but the council still was interested in seeing how the program can be improved and looked at. And the
Right.
childcare committee brought forward some thoughts, and the council.
Well, and it was a great opportunity for us to be updated and for the council to kind of give our gut reactions, our first thoughts of the sort of first draft. One of the things they talked about was this new employee that will be helping out the child care facilities, and we discussed about whether that will be 1 or it could be 2 part-time people, and that would be going over how the child care facilities are managed, as well as how the process of getting these scholarships out there and who it goes to and that sort of thing. Speaking of, they also talked about who qualifies for these scholarships. That has been quite a big conversation piece about who should get scholarships, whether it should be on a sliding scale, or if we should continue doing it as a needs-based, how we've been doing it in the past. And as far as the sliding scale goes, they are still vetting out the option of a sliding scale and how much that will cost. There's a chance it could cost more. There's a chance that not everybody or as many people who need the program will use it, things like that. So they'll be answering those questions coming up around February. And then they were also talking about going about to see how effective this program is, tracking the children as they grow up. So to see how they do in elementary school and high school and maybe even college, to see why this is so important. Now, there's different schools of thoughts out there, of course. Just a program in general, I'm sold on it because it keeps families here. And Breckenridge needs families in order to thrive as a community. However, if people are skeptical about early childcare learning, this program would also help explain why that's so important to our citizens and to really grow our community in a positive direction.
Abuses was the term that we heard a lot when the council went and asked the voters about funding this, or potential abuses. Some of this is to try to address that.
It is. I think what we'd like to do is kind of get out in front of all the issues that are either misunderstood, or quite frankly, are there some issues out there that really do need some changing? As Erin said, the fact that we could bring in an administrator to really focus on this program 24/7, not only manage the program and its operations, but also work with the child care centers to see if there's some economies of scale in terms of shared resources and administration and purchasing, and taking a look at their budgets and make sure they're incorporating everything, particularly their capital expenditures. I mean, a real manager. And And also the same individual will be able to look at the, the program guidelines, as Erin said, the eligibility requirements, and do some fine tuning. Because I think it's important for people to realize, and we're trying to get away from this term of scholarship. Scholarship seems to imply everybody gets some money and off they go, but
100%.
it truly is a tuition assistance program. And just as Erin said, it really depends upon the different family situations and how many children or child that they may have in the program. And if we're going to fight the fight with those that are sitting on the fence and not sure whether this is a valuable program to our community, or those who just say government has no business being in it anyway, the latter will probably never convince as to the importance of the program for the community. But those that are sitting on the fence and going, why, I don't understand it as well as maybe I should, the key there is to get all of the, I'll call it the low-hanging fruit out of the way so you don't get picked off. You want your conversation to really be at the 30,000-foot level. Why is this program important to the community, to the families, what it means to the businesses, what it means to our tax base? And so really get yourself focused, and that's why the education and the outreach to the community is going to be tremendously important, because our community is going to need, we're going to need to develop several messages, depending upon who you are and where you kind of sit in this community. Because I think the long-term goal that we all have in council is someday we would like to get back to a point where we can find a sustainable revenue stream for the program. But before we get there, because we got spanked the first time on the election when we were turned down, is really get some of this misinformation sort of out of the way, bring those that are sitting on the fence into the tent, if you will, and really have this program real sharp, functioning extremely well, where nobody can be critical of what you're doing, and that it's being done fairly and evenly across the board. And then perhaps you can have that conversation about, doesn't it make sense to find a sustainable revenue stream? And I think that's something we should never lose sight of. Right. It's not around the corner. It could be 2 years from now or 3 years from now. But I think the steps that we're taking now to improve the program and the accountability of the program will set us in good stead to perhaps be able to do that sooner rather than later.
Right. So 2 good conversations. One is the needs of the community and the workforce, but that second one, which I thought was very interesting, is how successful is early childhood education in preparing kids to be better?
Right, right.
And there's a lot of data out there that says it probably is.
Yes.
But now we can test it with our program.
Right, to see how effective our programs are, to make it really unique to our community. Yeah.
Good. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll finish up with 2014 Breck Buzz. Welcome back to Breck Buzz. We've been talking about some of the stuff the council worked on in December, and a couple of other items that came up was the marketing program for the Go Breck. We actually found that we did better in 2014 than expected. So we actually allocate a certain amount of money from lodging tax and stuff like that gave the Go Breck an opportunity to look at some opportunities to spend about $700,000 more of money. Why? And was it going to something good?
Well, first of all, for our listeners, Go Breck is the town's direct
DMO.
marketing organization,
Yeah, I should have explained that. Sorry,
known as a DMO. And they do many, many things. And but bottom line, I think, for the purposes of this discussion, they are the marketing arm for the town of Breckenridge. Their job is to get the Breckenridge name out there and get people to Breckenridge. And they've been very, very successful in doing that over the years. And in October 2014, when we sat down and do the budget for the upcoming year, we allocated $3.5 million, or appropriated $3.5 million approximately, to Go Breck for undertake all of their, we call them marketing businesses. And as you said, Tim, last year was an extremely good year, particularly in lodging. And we ended up with a little under $300,000 in a marketing fund balance. And so when Go Breck saw that, they said, could we have it? And we said, whoa, Lone Ranger. For the $3.5 million, you specifically came in and you told us exactly how it was going to be spent and funded. And we're fiduciaries for our citizens, so yeah, maybe you can have the $280,000, but we really want to know what it's going to go for. So about a month later, they came back in and And interestingly, they came back in and said, look, here are the areas that we would like to spend this $280,000 for. We're not going to do it in areas that will commit us to have an ongoing, let's say, expenditure. We're going to identify areas that should be helpful to us this coming year. If the economy continues to do well, then perhaps these are programs that we can continue. We'll have a chance to measure their success. But we're not going to commit the organization or the town to something that might be ongoing. So I came up with, I remember, like 4 programs. One was to develop some events that will be specifically targeted to our low seasons, spring and late fall.
Mm-hmm.
They also want to target some programs to increase our group sales, again in those slower areas of the year. Great business group sales when you don't have all your tourists and guests coming into town. They also wanted to do some direct marketing internationally, see if we could actually raise the bar internationally. And then lastly, there's something called a powwow, which is an international trade travel show that's going to be hosted in Denver in 2016. And I guess this is a big deal. This is like the granddaddy of them all, and to have it in Denver is quite an honor. And so they want to be a significant sponsor, and so some monies will be required for them to be a significant sponsor of that particular event. And then lastly, there was they have nothing in reserves.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so they want to put $100,000 of that $280,000 into a reserve to do 2 things. One is when something comes along that they can really jump on, that's going to really be beneficial and really help Breckenridge, they want to be able to do it without having to come back to council and say, oh, by the way, we didn't anticipate this, and could you give us some money, or so on and so forth. So this allows them to move more quickly to cover those kind of situations, and also not have to continue to come back to town council with their hand out. And like any organization, every organization should have some level of reserve, and they have 0. So this is a way to start building a reserve for the organization. So council listened to their proposal and found it acceptable and worthy and meaningful, and so we have further allocated to them another $280,000.
Good timing, particularly since we just heard about the Pro Cycling Challenge.
That's right. That's right. There was $50,000 in there for additional marketing for our extra large
the
Pro
2
Cycling
days.
Challenge this year. Yes, which will be exciting. And there's also a little bit of money reserved for on top of a reserve. Just if there's an event that comes up that they want to do or they want to be part of, they can now do that, which I think was exciting. And as well as the Spartan Challenge is coming
Oh yes,
up
that's
as
right,
well.
the Spartan Challenge.
So there's some exciting things with
We always
Breck.
seem to have those pop up.
Yeah.
And they don't do it at the budget cycle for some reason.
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But I think it's a worthwhile venture for us. And I have to mention, probably because I was part of it, this is coming on the heels of a large transition for Go Breck. And I think that it's important to give them a little bit of a push and let them go, see what they can do with these extra funds and how it'll come back. And of course, see what happens, and hopefully they will be, more sustainable and providing a little bit more for themselves in the future. But I think it's an exciting time.
And if they're successful, then they generate more money back into the marketing fund, which allows them to continue those investments. Great. Good. Erin, this was particularly focused on you and Elizabeth, this next item, because you guys are fairly new to the council, and we keep talking about this Blue River restoration.
That's right.
And you looked at us cross-eyed and says, what the heck are you guys talking about? So you had a little presentation talking about what we've done with that river over the years.
That's right. I'm glad you came to me, Tim, on this one. So I've been learning quite a bit about it. Fortunately, a lot of the river restoration has already been done, which is great. And the Blue River restoration, which is the Blue River, as people should hopefully know, north of town, or leads north through town. And it's well used, loved by people who come to visit and our locals, used mostly closer in toward town, and then spreads out toward Lake Dillon. Now, most of it's done. We still have work to do, and that's near the gondola lot projects and the McCain property. Those are the larger portions. And the reason why we want to restore the river is obviously for environmental health, but because people like to hike near it, fish in it, that sort of thing. So we have these portions left to do, and we have an earmark for a bridge or two involving this river. And we haven't tackled it yet, whether we're going to build these bridges or not. And some people on council are very passionate about the bridges. Some are not. And if you're familiar, there are already a couple of bridges where you can bike or walk over the streets, say right next to City Market. You can either go through the underpass on your bike or walk through there, or you can go over, which is very convenient. Now the question is, do we need another one near McCain? Did I do that right?
Yeah, you did.
Did I
Point
tackle
Valley
that?
Road,
yep.
And Point Valley Road, that's right.
Yep, exactly right. And we lost that bridge, actually, a culvert there.
Right.
But right now, you're right, you can only cross at grade.
Right.
So
we've put it back on staff again and asked them, what are our options? Do we have to have the underpass, or can we just have the overpass? There are some pipes and things like that involved, and so what would this cost? What would it involve?
in addition to the river restoration,
That's right.
which is being budgeted for next year. Right?
Yes, partially from our open space
That's
budget,
correct.
I believe. Yes.
That's right. That's right. So this is kind of the culmination of kind of finishing up the river corridor
Right.
as we've known it, and and you're exactly right. Well used, heavily used by bikers and people that like to flow along there, and it fits right in with our future McCain planning that we need to do.
It does. I mean, and what it also does, and it's part of reclaiming the river. We're sort of undoing the damages that were done through all the the dredge mining, where we lost Mother Nature's seal, if you will, sort of on the bottom, and that was all broken up through the dredge mining. So now, at different times of year, depending upon the flow of the river, oftentimes our river disappears.
That's right.
And it's not a particularly good-looking or aesthetically pleasing a view or sight. And so as part of the restoration is to undo that damage, and so that we will see the river flow above surface at all times of the year, regardless whether there's a high flow or a low flow. So that
the fish really appreciate that.
Yeah.
well, the fish will appreciate it, as Erin said. I mean, it gets people down to the water. For, the hikers, the
Right.
bikers. We're going to be doing some parks along these areas.
That's right.
And so, so the council has already signed off on approximately $2 to $3 million to do the restoration over the next 2, maybe 3 years. And the real question right now is, do we spend some extra money? Do we need a bridge, fancy or not fancy? But what do we need to do on Coyne Road there in terms of from safety point of view, as well as from a aesthetics point of view, and so on and so forth. So we'll wait and see what the study says on that. But other parts of the river will be restored and will be reclaimed over the next couple of years. It'll look
Great.
terrific.
Yeah.
It's a great legacy to bring back an environment that used to be there years ago.
Right.
Kind of our last story is happening day after tomorrow.
It's going to be
Saturday.
It's going to be the place to be in Breckenridge on
What's that all
Saturday
about?
night.
What is this BGV?
Between 5:30 and 7:30 at night. This is the Breck Grand Vacations Community Center. This is a project that has been done in concert with the county. The county's new South Branch Library will be prominent. It'll be a prominent tenant, if you will, in the new building, along with a upgraded speakeasy and some community meeting rooms and offices for a lot of our non-for-profit organizations. It's really going to become quite a central hub for a lot that's going on here in Breckenridge going forward. And Saturday night is the grand opening. And we're inviting the community to come out. It's going to be, like I said, the place to be. You're going to see your family, your neighbors, your friends are all going to be there. There'll be unfortunately, we'll all have to bear through some sort of a public ceremony and with introductions and everything else for the first few moments. That'll be starting around 5:30, but then at 6 o'clock, the lights inside the building will go on. It'll be sort of similar to the curtain going up. And at that point, people will be admitted to the building, have a glass of champagne, and we'll be able to wander through the building and just see everything that has been done. And I haven't seen it in months and months and months. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what it looks like. What I'm hearing is it's just unbelievable how this building has been restored to look so much like it was back in the heyday.
Well, the only part that's been open so far is the speakeasy.
That's right.
For a little pre-opening. I haven't been in it yet.
I have not either.
So,
I'm very excited to see it on
But generally it was
Saturday.
kind of closed off for the last couple of months, so nobody could see it. So this is going to be for everybody.
Think we can get the
Yeah.
interview to show in the speakeasy?
Yeah.
It's not on their website yet, which is speakeasymovies.com. I looked this up before I came today, but coming up, Wild will be playing soon, which will be good.
Has all
I
kinds
love their
of
picks for
Oscar
movies.
buzz.
I hope that they play the interview, but
That'd be great to have.
maybe we can send this to them.
Then you had the debate whether it's just because of the controversy or is it because it's an okay movie. I'm hearing it's only because of the controversy it is. So the place to be tomorrow, Saturday is 5:30?
Yep. And there is, I'm excited because I'm on the Breckenridge Heritage Alliance board. They will have their archive available for people, so that'll be interesting too to see.
And we have Summit Foundation is in there, and the
Breck Film Fest.
Breck Film Festival,
Yep.
and then of course our community room, speakeasy, and the library.
Yep.
Really.
And I guess they're going to do
shines
some children's reading Saturday night also.
Yep.
And for the first 100 children that are there, they'll actually get a book.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I saw that on some of the materials.
And they're going to have a cowboy salutes. One of my coworkers is in it. So
great. You
all
guys know,
sorts of
know
things
more than I
are
do
going
about
on.
what's going to be
Yeah,
happening. I'm just
yeah.
looking forward to being there.
Yeah.
So this is our historic actually 1900, early 1900 building. That's huge remodel, great community support for this project. Well over 2.1?
Yeah, around
million?
2.1
Yeah.
million on a $9 million project.
project.
That's
That's
huge.
right.
Yeah, so very exciting, very
Yeah.
exciting. And the one question we do hear a lot about is, does that mean all the parking is now going to be available again?
I hope so.
And the answer is yes. And the parking lot will be plowed. Well, that was kind of our highlights for 2014. Anything we forgot that we kind of wrap up for
One thing I might mention is that since our last town council meeting, obviously the voters had voted to not have retail marijuana or medical marijuana shops on our downtown area. And the council affirmed that advisory vote from our citizens. And so presumably in very short fashion, the voters will have been heard, and hopefully things will go smoothly in terms of the only establishment that's currently on Main Street will have moved on. So I'm sure most people were aware of the vote, but I just thought I'd just throw that out.
It was after our last bracket.
Yeah.
That's right,
It was.
that's
And
right.
a huge turnout too. Great deal of community support. Well, 2015 looks bright. Budget's all approved. We're all ready to go. We got some topics coming up that, as always, check in with the town website. The agendas, if you like to get agendas and the agenda package, you can sign up for them through the town website. And we'll have our first meeting next Tuesday.
That's right.
To quick kickoff 2015, and hopefully more snow.
Yes.
So we look forward to it. I want to thank Erin and Gary
Thank
for
you.
joining me today.
Thank you for hosting,
and,
Tim.
And Happy New Year to everybody. And we'll look forward to some exciting stuff at our next Breck Buzz as we start 2015.